Golf Central, brought to you by TaylorMade.
TPC Harding Park opened in July of 1925, and just over 95 years after the first rounds were played, they will host their first major championship, and now the first major in the men's game in 2020, starting August 6th. Will also mark the first PGA Championship to be conducted in a West Coast state this century. Seth Waz, the CEO of the PGA of America, said this today. Quote, "We are both inspired and honored to play on. In doing so, we will spotlight not only the beauty of TPC Harding Park, but the fortitude of San Francisco and its remarkable people. We would like to thank the state of California and the city and county of San Francisco for being terrific partners in helping us get to this place. While the local community cannot be with us physically on site, we will certainly carry their spirit on of resilience and unity with us as we stage our major championship on their behalf for all the world to see and enjoy." Now, there is also a report in The Guardian posted today that the Ryder Cup, obviously conducted by the PGA of America in conjunction with the European Tour, which is scheduled for September 25th to the 27th, is going to be postponed until 2021. According to the report, the announcement could come officially next week. A PGA of America spokesman told GolfChannel.com that the organization had no comment on the latest report. With all that, we welcome you inside Studio A on this Monday evening. The PGA Tour is now 2 weeks into the season restart, and the two winners were two players who were already having very good season when the tour came to a halt on March 12th. Daniel Berger was showing very good form with top 10 finishes. Webb Simpson was already a winner this season, having won in a playoff at the Waste Management Phoenix Open. You know, Webb grew up in a house where golf was a shared passion between Webb and his parents, Debbie and Sam Simpson. And he started showing up big on days celebrating moms and dads. The U.S. Open trophy on June 18th of 2012. On Mother's Day, winning the Players' Championship in 2018. And yesterday, winning the RBC Heritage on Father's Day again. And after his 7th win, Webb talked about the significance of winning and family.
I feel like I won the Players on Mother's Day after my dad passed away, and that was really special, especially it had been 4.5 years maybe since I won. That was an emotional win. U.S. Open on Father's Day, I'll never forget calling my dad after on the way to the press conference. And when he picked up the phone, he just was laughing, you know, and that's kind of what he did when he was his happiest. He would just laugh. And so I'm going to miss that laugh today for sure. But I thought a lot about him. This morning I thought about him, and when I was on the golf course I thought about him. And yeah, I started wearing yellow on Sundays in his honor. Yellow was his favorite color, and my kids know that. Whenever they give me a card, it's always in yellow crayon or yellow marker. So still, you know, feeling my dad all around me from memories, and he loved golf. He would have loved watching today.
Oh, Tripp Isenhour joins me now. Tripp, look, by the end of 2016, Webb Simpson was sliding toward being outside the top 100 in the official World Golf Rankings. Today, he woke up 5th, again, where he was the day after that U.S. Open in 2012. How's he done it?
Well, he's done it really with the flat stick. I mean, I think about Webb Simpson and where he's come, because the anchor ban, we knew it was definitely going to affect a lot of players, and Webb was one of those guys who was smart, under the advice of Paul Tesori, who told him, hey, you need to adjust to this beforehand, and he did. And before the ban in 2015, he actually switched to conventional method, and there you can see the strokes gained putting numbers and the fall off. But here's what happened. He learned something about what happens in his stroke. He learned a lot about it. And in really 2016, 17, the beginning of 17, he made a switch with his putting. And the reason why these putting gains are so much better is from 5 to 15 feet. But Webb Simpson right here, what he does conventionally, and it's subtle. I'm telling you it's subtle, but Paul Tesori told me, there's almost a left-hand yippee motion through the hit. and it has a little bit of a hit too much, and it was subconscious. He didn't realize he was doing it. You couldn't do that anchored, and he figured out a quasi way to anchor, going to the claw, getting the brace against his left arm, and there is a solid fluid motion and takes that hit out that was not present when he was anchoring. So that is the reason why Webb Simpson is so much remarkably better on the greens. And let's not forget, from 5 to 15 feet is a very important distance for a lot of players, but even more important for Webb Simpson. Why? Well, if you look at this year, I mean, Webb Simpson is 9th in strokes gained approach. He's 10th in greens in regulation, and he's 3rd in proximity. So he's hitting the ball close, and now he's converting those putts when he wasn't before. And every now and then, you know, you miss a green, you don't chip it inside 5 feet, but you have an 8-9 footer. He's pouring those in with regularity, and that's the biggest difference in the rise because, you know, Webb has always been a very consistent ball striker. Now you add in the performance on the greens, and it's no surprise that he's winning multiple times a season. He's a very talented young man.
You know, you mentioned Paul Tesori, who is not only almost like a little Vince Lombardi to him, the commitment, the trust he gives him before every shot, his understanding of the golf swing. But I want to get back to something he does. It's one thing for you to explain the methodology, but think box and play box, all the way down to the last stroke he made yesterday. There is no deliberation.
No.
He gets committed, and it's about 3 beats, and he pulls the trigger.
And I love it. And that's exactly how he practices, too. And that is the biggest thing. When you can practice the way you play and it carries over to those pressure situations, it's just a routine. It's like brushing your teeth. You just do it. You don't even think about it. And I like what you just said, the fact that there is no wasted time, no wasted motion, and no wasted gray matter. That's the most important thing because putting, it's very, very mental, as we know. Sure, you've got to be able to physically roll the ball well, but you can miss putts in the mind. A lot of players miss putts before they ever hit them.
All right, joining us now, senior writer at GolfChannel.com, Rex Hoggard. And Rex, you were up there at the Heritage all week. Let's start with DeChambeau. He's been a big story the first 2 weeks. He's much more than a media talking point, and he's more than a curiosity at minimum for fellow players, is he not?
Absolutely. I mean, look, I was guilty as anyone. I spent the last 2 weeks talking about Big Bryson and all the work that he's put in the gym and his ball speed, everything else that goes into it. And I asked him that question that he just answered, and it was fascinating to me. You look at the courses the last 2 weeks, they are not big ballparks. You need to control your golf ball. And he talked about it. I mean, the famous line was not being able to release the crack and whatever that means. But I think he took a lot from this week, being able to adjust his game, being able to play small ball, knowing that if you look forward, he's got some big ballparks coming up. 2 of the things that he pointed out to me was, look, he wasn't entirely comfortable on these grasses either. The Bermuda, the grain, and everything that goes into it. Felt like he even putted halfway decent. He could have even had better weeks the last 2 weeks. Think about the next couple of courses coming back. They're all kind of big ballparks, and they're all bent grass. So he's very, very excited.
All right, one of the stories that you obviously covered all week long was the first positive test, which initiated procedures that are in place for contact tracing and additional testing. What was the data by week's end?
Well, the protocols kicked into place, as we all know, and 11 people were tested after Nick tested positive because they were in close contact. That's the way the protocol stated. They were actually retested. All of those tests came back last night. They were also negative. So it was very encouraging to know that all of those people that got kicked into that can move forward. That being said, Nick Watney's caddy, Tony Navarro, and another caddy, Brendan Todd's caddy, still have to remain in self-isolation in Hilton Head because they were in close contact with him throughout the course of the week. Probably the bigger concern going forward is everyone who was tested on Saturday, getting on the charter, heading up to Travelers Championship this week. More so than last week at Colonial, there was a little bit of concern going forward. They didn't know what to expect because they knew we'd have a first positive test. And as Justin Thomas pointed out, it was very busy last week on Hilton Head Island.
You know, last thing, Rex, for safety reasons, Nick Watney is now in self-isolation. The odd thing is that everybody leaves and he's left behind, which has got to be incredibly lonely. What is the status update on Nick Watney?
Yeah, I spoke with his manager, Ben Harrison, just this afternoon. He had just gotten off the phone with Nick, and he said he's very lonely, obviously, being in a house by yourself. He said he feels absolutely fine, maybe a little bit tired, but that probably goes into just sitting around the house and not having anything to do. And as everyone has kind of said, we heard this from Rory McIlroy, the biggest thing for Nick is feeling very, very bad that he was possibly exposing people to coronavirus. He hasn't been able to get over that, and it may take him a little while to get over that. Keep in mind, he needs to stay in self-isolation for 10 days, which means the earliest he can get out is next Monday, a week from today. And I asked his manager when he plans on playing again. He said he's not sure when he's going to be ready for that.
Rex, I know your family's happy to have you home. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Gary.
TPC River Highlands has filled this spot many years for the week after the U.S. Open, similar to the Heritage being the week after the Masters. This year, the Travelers is following the Heritage, which speaks to how unusual this year has been in professional golf. You look at the field notes, you got each of the top 7 in the world, 9 of the top 10 in the official World Golf Rankings, best ever. Third straight week, over 100 winners, at least once on the PGA Tour, in this case 106. Plus, you got a number of Players Champions in the field, 25 major champions. The tournament director for the Travelers Championship is Nathan Grube, who joins us now. Nathan, when your date remained on the schedule, going back to the early part of the spring, I would imagine you and your team had some anxiety as to whether you'd get to tournament week. You're here. What is the biggest concern that you have about the event and for the players who are getting there starting today?
To your point, we actually had a staff meeting this morning, and I kind of stopped everybody and I said, do we really think this Monday was going to happen? You know, the last 90 days have been so much planning and so many different scenarios we were looking at, but we were here. Everybody was excited, but I would say they have a healthy awareness of the gravity of what we're doing here to do it the right way. And we all talked about it that, you know, next week after the tournament, we want to be able to look back and say, okay, we did everything the right way. We did it as safe as we possibly could. We understood kind of our role in all of this, and we want to be proud of the event that we put on and have it be as safe as possible. So everybody's ready to do that this week. You've
had 2 weeks watching, now on television, first Colonial and now down at Harbortown. What'd you learn?
I tell you what, there's no better team than the PGA Tour from a tournament director standpoint. We all share ideas, and nobody considers themselves a threat to each other from a competing standpoint. Everybody believes that if we all do better, we're all going to do better. And so Michael Toth, the tournament director down at Schwab, started this on Monday morning post-tournament. He sent Steve Wilmot from RBC, Jason Langwell from Rocket, and myself his top 10 list of things. He said, hey, here's what stuck out to me. And then we all kind of talked about it. And we've been on calls for the last 6 weeks together and sharing ideas. And so, I mean, little things, big things, but it's such a collaborative effort because we all want to do this the right way. But to have Michael do that for all of us kind of that Monday morning after the tournament was pretty special.
Nathan, how about having an insurance company like Travelers as your title sponsor? How do they help your staff in the area of health and safety procedures?
Oh, gosh. From the beginning, since 2007, not just health and safety procedures, but just how they look at the tournament. They look at it from a client standpoint. Like, what does our client need this tournament to be? And our clients are the caddies, the players, the families, everyone. So when we go into this environment where health and safety is the number one priority, we looked at it from that standpoint. And we have always taken hospitality as our number one goal. And it was hard for us this year because we said, okay, we're going to have to sacrifice some hospitality so that we can be as safe as possible. And that mentality has driven every one of our decisions, how we transport the players, how we get our volunteers here, how we feed our volunteers, how we put them in golf carts, how we move pencils around, how we refill, our hand sanitizing stations. It has driven everything. And their culture, I would say, at Travelers has really been a key for us to be able to have an event that represents that culture of safety.
Last thing, New England this time of the year is pretty darn special, and your tournament is so well attended. 18 is one of the great spots on the PGA Tour. Any particular plans to offset the presence of not having the fans there on your closing hole?
Well, I offered up the idea of cardboard cutouts around 18, but they didn't go for that. But no, I would say that our fans have stayed very engaged from a social standpoint. We've built, to your point, a very loyal fan base that they care about this event and they're going to miss it. And I've taken calls and emails from people that are sad, but they also completely understand. Nobody has been mad about the decision to not have spectators. They understand, but there's this sense of this is the kickoff to summer. This is our event. And so I think they're thrilled to be able to have it and actually us be able to play it. But they're also saying, you know what, there's this sense of, they want to be here. So they'll be watching from TV.
Well, listen, you got here, you and your staff. It's tournament week. We wish you the very best. Have a wonderful week.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
All right, the PGA Tour is back in Connecticut for the Travelers Championship. You can watch Rory McIlroy, Bubba Watson, Brooks Koepka, his little brother Chase, Monday qualified today. They will take on TPC River Highlands starting Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern on Golf.